always leave them wanting for more, is a quote often credited to Phineas Taylor Barnum, a 19th century American showman, businessman, and politician. It's a good quote, a reminder for entertainers to realize when their job is done, to leave the stage when the emotions are at their highest, and leave a good lasting impression on the audience. A good example of this would be the actor Anthony Hopkins, with his performance as Hannibal Lecter in the movie The Silence of the Lambs, where he only shows up for 16 minutes out of the 158 total movie screen time. That was enough to win the Oscar as Best Actor in 1992 from a movie where he wasn't even the main character. The film director Jonathan Demme understood that the less you show about the character, the more people will be intrigued by personality and actions. In simple terms, less is more. Recently, I watched a video review by the Synthetic Man on YouTube about the latest God of War game, Ragnarok. Out of all the things he mentioned, there was one in particular I had to agree with. He is right. Modern video games don't respect your time. I'm a full grown adult with adult responsibilities, which restrict my entertainment time to just a few hours a week. If the game I'm playing forces me to walk and experience unskippable cutscenes instead of letting me play, it's just wasting my time. And these cinematic experiences don't just occur at the beginning, it's throughout the entire thing. It feels like they are just trying to artificially inflate the length of their game. And this isn't just a God of War Ragnarok problem. It seems to me that every game that comes out these past few years has to be at least 30 or 40 hours long to be considered a game with a good story. The problem is so obvious, but nobody seems to mention it as if games deserve to be critiqued inside the cinematic bubble game directors want them to be in. Instead of being seen first and foremost as video game, I watch other videos criticizing Synthetic Man's review, and because of their own bias and also probably due to the normalization of games as a narrative experience grab, nobody could just accept that he was right on this point in particular at least. Modern gaming is centered from one cinematic moment to the other, to the point where it sacrifices gameplay and replayability. Last year, I played Red Dead Redemption 2 for the first time, and I really loved that game. But when I finished it and wanted to play it again sometime later, I couldn't get past chapter 2. Once the glitter from the initial experience is gone, and the story has already shown every single trick it had to offer, you start noticing the flaws from all scripted sequences. It's just not fun. It's not fun to ride along with NPCs and listen to 5 or 10-minute conversations you've already heard before. This doesn't happen for just a mission or two, it's most of them, and you can't skip them. There are cinematics in the game that you can skip, but these ride along, walk along segments are as tedious as it gets if you've already experienced them once. Like walking into a restaurant whose main dish you really love, but the waiter forces you to eat every single entry before getting there. That should never happen. My girlfriend tried to play the game and was bored by the end of chapter 1. And what happens at the start of chapter 2? Another scripted sequence. These types of games are just a chore for people that aren't used to this trend and don't want to invest their time on something so banal. All games understood this, and in most cases, they clearly divided their cinematic experience from the gameplay. If you've beaten the game once, there's no point in forcing the player to experience the story again if what they want from a replay is just to enjoy the gameplay. Modern games are technical marvels with occasionally fun and interesting gameplay mechanics buried in tons of scripted sequence bullshit. As a matter of fact, games are only getting longer as if length of time equal fun. The Last of Us 1 was 15 hours long and it packed a fair amount of scripted sequences, and then the sequel added an extra 10 hours. God of War 1 through 3 were around 10 hours long per game. And then years later, the reboot slash sequel was twice as long. This increase in length and intrusive storytelling only hurts the game long term. It makes them not worth replaying again after completing them once. Kids these days will never know what it's like to pick up a game that's 10 or 15 hours long at most, play it for an hour or a half hour and feel completely satisfied with the experience with no compromise. Perhaps games like The Last of Us 2 get a pass because they were always a cinematic experience from the very first game, but a sequel from a series of games known for its explosive gameplay? Never. Very few modern games offer a real gaming experience. The only one I can think of right now is Devil May Cry 5, which is around 10 hours long and focuses entirely on gameplay and mastering the mechanics. This is a clear example of how it's possible for a game to stay true to the original franchise while delivering a new, fresh story and have neither of these two elements conflict with each other. I think the cinematic experience in gaming is a trend that's getting really old at this point. Soon we'll start seeing more and more games that succeed simply by staying true to the format, and more importantly, offer real replayability. Cinematic gaming is just the dying trend, and that's it. Anyway, thanks for listening. See you next time.